Fly chick coming through. Nice to meet you. Glad you came too. Like you said, when you know you got moves. You spit game and you know you spit.
Hello and welcome back to the Fast Lane Collective. I'm your host Daniella, and today I'm joined by Yaz for our F1 Academy episode. And this weekend was a very exciting weekend of the F1 Academy season because it was the penultimate round of the 2025 season. I don't know about you, Yaz, but I feel like it's gone so quickly. Do you agree?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, where has this season gone? It's just like poof, we're here, and like next race, that's it. It's like the deciding race. Yeah, we've had an interesting season. I think it's been so exciting. We've had multiple race winners. Daniela, what are you thinking? Like, who do you think's gonna win? Is probably the question that I want to ask you.
That is the question. I think in the last episode, I said that Doriane was going to win. But then Maya has been putting in performances that kind of are making me doubt my decision. There is only 9 points between the two of them. And we will come on to this a little bit later on. But Maya had a very strong weekend. And that is making me want to say Maya. But I'm like, do I stick with my guns and say Doriane? I'm going to stick with my guns and say Doriane, just for now, because she still is leading the championship. But if Maya brings in the performance that she did this past weekend into Las Vegas, well, I would be scared if I was Doriane right now. That's all I'm going to say. What about you, Yaz? Who's it going to be?
Oh, I'm gonna have to say Maya. She just got it out of the park this weekend. Like, she was on fire. And again, like that last lap, whew, I was so shocked, so surprised. Incredible stuff. Like, we do have a roster of incredible talent this season. And it's been so exciting to watch, and like all these women are just doing so well, and we've had like multiple drivers this season have gone, wow, like that was impressive, or that move was impressive. Like Chloe Chambers this weekend was like driving really aggressive, and the same with Ella Lloyd as well. And I mean that in like a positive sense. Sometimes aggressive driving kind of sounds a bit of a negative, but like really these girls like just put their foot to the floor this weekend, and it's been really impressive. So I just like can't wait for this final race. Like, what?
They definitely were getting their elbows out this season, and I think that it's been such a testament to the talent that we have, because we have seen the championship go down right to the wire. It's going to go down to the final weekend, but not only that, up until this penultimate weekend, like the penultimate weekend, we still had, I think it was like 5 drivers still in contention for the title. So you had Alicia Palmosky, Ella Lloyd, Chloe Chambers, Maya Vug, and Doriane Pan. And to have that many drivers still in contention this late on in the season is, for me, I find that quite incredible. I feel like since we've had a launch of an all-female championship, including W Series, we haven't had that kind of many drivers fighting for the championship. It's usually 1 or 2, and mostly 1. Like, you kind of know really early on who's going to win the championship. This year, it hasn't been like that at all. And I think that has managed to bring in more F1 Academy fans because of how tight the championship is. As I've said, there's only 9 points between Maya and Doriane. And I think if I have done the maths correctly, there are 37 points up for grabs in Las Vegas. So that puts Ella, Chloe, and Alicia now out of contention. So Ella was on 101, Chloe was on 99, and I think that Alicia was on 70-something. But she did not have a very strong weekend at all, unfortunately. And that was kind of like my first point that I wanted to talk about, is we have seen Alicia be consistent the entire year. Like, absolutely incredible performances from her week in, week out, which as a rookie, now yes, she was a wildcard entry last season, but this is her first season in this car, like getting to know the team, getting to know how the championship works. And I think she did such a phenomenal job to get to this point and be in contention for that title up until this last weekend. And the same goes for Ella as well. Like for me, they're both such strong names and such strong drivers that I feel like a lot of people aren't talking about enough. Making their debuts last season and then having their first full season and being able to be fighting the likes of Doriane, Maya, Chloe, like I feel like this is kind of unheard for, like, in a lot of championships where rookies come in and are fighting so hard at the top. And yeah, I honestly don't have the words to explain, like, how happy it makes me to see the amount of drive, pun unintended, ironically there, to, like, they both have this drive that I feel like we haven't quite seen from other drivers, especially in their rookie season. I don't know if Yaz, if you would agree with that statement or if that was a bit bold from me, but I'm excited to see, like, what happens with them next season if they, like, choose to come back. As you may know, F1 Academy only allows you to be in the season twice. Like, you can only be a driver of F1 Academy for 2 years, and then you are out. And if you win the championship, you're automatically out. You can't come back. So that adds, like, a little bit more drama to the championship, but also you get to see more talent on the grid, which I really like. But yeah, going back to Alicia, she had problems in qualifying, so she started from the back of the grid, which is such a shame. And then she struggled in race, was it race 1 she struggled in, and then she had a crash in race 2, or that could have been the other way around. Did I write it in my notes? Yes, so race 1 she was out of the points because she did make some really good overtakes, and there were some really nice shots of her making these overtakes, and she kind of became a big talking point in race 1, trying really, really hard to get into those points because she knew how crucial it was to kind of stay within that kind of distance between her and Chloe and Ella. And then unfortunately in race 2, she oh no, it was the other way around, my bad, reread my notes, said this wrong. Race 1 she DNF'd, and race 2 she was out of the points because both races she started from the back of the grid. And so overall, like, she came away with nothing, which is not what you need when you want to stay in that fight for the title. And so it kind of felt like a really weird weekend for me, seeing how she was doing, because she just wasn't how we've seen her all season. Yaz, how do you think that she was feeling heading into this weekend, having those problems in qualifying and then coming out ultimately with no points when really she kind of desperately needed those if she wanted to kind of push herself forward and close the gap between herself, Chloe, and Ella?
Listen, the pressure was on for Alicia this weekend, and my heart breaks for her. I was quite surprised with how just her weekend was just not going well. From qualifying to both races that we had, it just was not her weekend. And I think people forget, they're tackling the heat as well in Singapore. Like, they're doing these races when it's still light outside. We're used to, cooler temperatures when we get to, the night races. But again, they're doing this before sundown. And Singapore itself is a tricky track. And then they had like that shower of rain as well. Like, everything was against these girls this weekend. So it does not surprise me at all that we had at least one driver that did not have a good weekend. Again, it's a shame that it was Alicia. This was her big chance to kind of close that gap points wise. And I'm sure she is beating herself up over it, but she's proved throughout this season that she's an incredible talent, and she's going to go far in her career. Yeah, she's definitely going to go far. And just because she's had one bad weekend, I mean, what driver in any Formula 2, Formula 3, Formula 1, any type of racing motorsport, like, every driver's had a bad weekend at some point in their career. So I just hope, going into the last race, that she can have a solid weekend, give us some great overtakes, great performances, and kind of move on from this just terrible weekend for her.
Yeah, I agree. It was a weekend to kind of forget for her. Not what she needed as we're kind of closing in into those final races, and she although I think she has proven herself throughout most of the season, this is kind of, we're at the business end now of the championship. You've got to kind of look desirable to sponsors, to F1 teams if you're going to like move around, because that does happen. Like, we know that Chloe went from Haas to Red Bull, so like there are changes around that happens with that. You want to make yourself look desirable, otherwise you're at risk of not getting a seat or sponsors or funding for next season. So I can understand why the pressure is kind of reaching that point with these drivers. And as you said, Singapore is a really tricky track. And then when you add on like the heat on top of that, it makes it kind of unbearable to drive. Now, these girls are incredible for just getting in those cars and getting out there, because I don't think I could do that. I could not do it in that heat. Not that I can drive like that anyway, because I cannot. You barely want me out on the roads, let alone on a racetrack. But they have proven like how they will kind of like go for anything. That's what I love about F1 Academies. You get to see these girls really test themselves in different ways. And Singapore is one of those tracks where they're kind of challenged in many different ways, because it's a track that's really hard to overtake on. Yet we did see some really good overtakes from this weekend. And also the heat is such a big challenge for everyone. So I would say that I'm pretty impressed with the drives from all of them this weekend. But I wanted to know what your kind of expectations are for Alicia going into her second season. Do you think that she'll still kind of stay being backed by like Red Bull, or do you think that she will be going somewhere else? And if there was another team on that like F1 team sponsor, who do you think would sponsor her next season, and what kind of results are you expecting from her next year?
I think Red Bull would be quite silly to drop her. Again, I think she's proved herself more than enough times this season to be kept in the Red Bull roster. But if she was to be like let go from them, I would see the likes of maybe Mercedes or even like Ferrari wanting to sponsor her. I do think that she's an incredible talent. And if I can see that, I'm sure many other people and teams will see that as well. But the thing about Alicia, I think, as well is, and like even off the track, she's quite funny. She has quite a personality, and like for teams, like they want not just like results with how she races, but also that kind of like rapport that she could build with an audience as well. And I know that like drivers shouldn't be really thinking about that. They should just be focusing on the drive themselves. But I think she is quite like a marketable young woman, and a talented young woman at that. In regard to how I think she will perform next year, I think the expectation would be that she would be trying to fight for that championship. I think she could do it. I definitely do think she can do it. Again, but we don't know where she's going to be next year. She might not be with Red Bull. Who knows? Again, really hope that she does stay with Red Bull. It seems to be a perfect fit for her. But yeah, I think that next year she's going to want to prove herself and expand on the results that she's gotten this year. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting, and she's definitely one I'm going to be keeping my eye on.
For sure. She, as you said, is very marketable, and I think that adds to that kind of desirable aspect of wanting her to be a part of their team. And I have this feeling that she's going to be in the top 3 of the championship next year, and I would like it if she was to win it, but there's also so many like talented drivers on this grid that I honestly would be happy with whoever won it, which is why I'm finding it hard like to choose between like Doriane and Maya, because I really like both of them so much, and I really like their driving styles and like the performances that they put out on track. So moving on to, I want to speak a little bit about Ella Lloyd and Chloe Chambers, because I feel like nearly every single race this season we've seen the two of them battle it out. Like, it always just feels like you can't see one on track without the other right behind them. Like, they're constantly battling. They have been all season. Now, there's only 2 points between them, and that will obviously, like, depend on then who finishes third in the championship. And I think it's a really interesting battle that you can kind of look at away from just Maya and Doriane. These two drivers, as I've said before, have kind of been in this fight for the title the entire season. And again, this weekend, they came out with some stellar performances. And yes, as you said, they were really battling it out. Do you think that this is a battle that is really going to go down to the wire? Because there is, as I've said, literally 2 points between them. And do you think actually next year it's going to feel kind of strange not having Chloe there to battle against Ella?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a bit different, a bit strange. I mean, them two, they got their elbows out this weekend, and it was incredible to see. I just really hope next year we get the same type of driving from like new talent. I just love seeing like wheel to wheel action, and sometimes it goes really well, and sometimes maybe they can misjudge and it gets a bit bashing into each other. But it's like, I mean, this weekend, them two were at it with each other. And I think going into the next race, you're just going to see it more. Again, with every championship, when we're getting to those last couple of races, and especially when it's like, again, next weekend, well, not next weekend, in a couple of weeks' time, we're going to get to the last race. I think it's just going to be, those gloves are going to be off. And I can't wait to see it. It's just, oh, I just want to watch it now.
Yes, I am also so excited, but I also don't want it to end. Like, I'm kind of like, like when you're reading a really good book and you're like, I want to finish it, but also I really don't want it to end. That's how I feel about this season, because it has been such a stellar season that I'm like, oh, I don't want it to end, but also I want to know who's going to be champion. So everyone, I hope you're all going to tune in on, I think it's the 20th to the 22nd of November, Las Vegas. So that means it's going to be at a crazy hour. Yay! But moving on to Leah Block. She came away with her first F1 Academy win this weekend. And I want to talk about this because honestly, I think Leah is a driver that I'm absolutely fascinated by. She's come from a rally background. She's a daughter of Ken Block. So she's a name that people already knew, but not in single seaters. And we all know she struggled last year, trying to fit in to single seaters where she's never raced anything like it before against girls who have pretty much only ever driven single seaters. And maybe there'd been some that had come from karting and this was their first time in single seaters. But because Leah had taken such a different route into motorsport, she was presented with such a big challenge. And at times it was really tough for her. And then this season, we were kind of expecting that a little bit more from her. And we did see glimpses of it, but then there'd be times that she'd have a really poor weekend. Now, in the second race, she did DNF, she did crash out. But in the first race, she took her first win. Yaz, how do you think she felt in that moment after all of those challenges over the last 2 seasons to get to this point? I know that other people in the motorsport industry have spoken out. I know that James Vowles spoke out about how amazing it is that Leah has made this progress. What do you think she's feeling now, like reflecting on that weekend, and how can she kind of take that high and move it on into the final weekend? Because this will be her final weekend in F1 Academy. And as it stands, I don't think she has a seat anywhere else, or at least it hasn't been announced if she does. What do you think the direction is that she's going to be heading in? Sorry, I've just realised I've asked you like 4 different questions in one there.
I do the same. I think like if you've watched us for long enough, like we kind of just load up a question. But no, you can keep me on track if I've missed anything that you want me to answer. I think that I mean, to just have all these like struggle after struggle, and to finally get the satisfaction of winning a race. I mean, this is ART's first win since Monza in 2023. So I mean, even for the team itself, it's just like an incredible feeling for her, and I hope she like keeps that fire in her and that determination and brings it to the Las Vegas. And I kind of feel bad for these girls. They can't just like, okay, let's get the momentum moving and get to the next race. Like we have to wait like basically a month for these girls to like race again. But I hope she kind of keeps that feeling and really prove to other people watching her that she deserves a seat, she deserves an opportunity. And just because her dad was a famous racer, that it's not like she can do it herself, just because she has that famous last name. doesn't mean that she's like a nepo baby. Like, she's proved that she can work herself up into a series that she doesn't really have much experience in a single seater. She's come from a completely different background of racing. I think that's impressive in itself. What else did you want me to answer? Have I missed anything?
Where do you think she's going to head like next season? Because this is her final season in F1 Academy.
This is really hard. I honestly do not know. Maybe it'd probably be easier to go back into the likes of rally, and then heading back into single seaters. See, when it comes to like where these girls are gonna go, I have no clue. And that's not because of their ability to race. I just like it's really heartbreaking, but sometimes like these incredible drivers just don't get to go anywhere because those opportunities aren't open for them. So I'm really hoping that a team is gonna just get her and take her into another team or another. You can probably hear actually my neighbor upstairs. Sorry. Yeah, apologies for the background noise. But yeah, I do not know where she's gonna go. And I really hope that she goes somewhere. Because I don't want her to just kind of get lost in the talent out there that just kind of get thrown to the side, and we wait for the next new talent to be thrown to the side again. But where do you think she's gonna go?
I agree with what you're saying, and I think there is such a flaw in the system here where you can't really progress because you do just get thrown to the side, and then people aren't then sponsoring you, and you can't make that progression that you kind of had in mind. Like, we've seen it with Marta Garcia. She won F1 Academy in 2023, and she has struggled so much to kind of have consistent racing career since then. She got picked up by the Iron Dames, but then she's dropped out a few times with like different races, and she's had such a problem in being able to maintain a solid like career since then because it's the lack of funding and support for these female drivers. And I do have this fear that because Leah doesn't have as much experience as the likes of, say, like Maya, Doriane, if we look at Abby Pulling from last season, like they don't have the same level of experience. So what I would quite like to see Leah go off and do is go into another F4 style championship, get kind of used to single seaters and a Formula 4 car. That's what she's been racing in an F1 Academy, and I think if she can build on this experience, I think another year in an F4 car would do her wonders. In a different championship, mixed championship as well, against the men too, I think she could learn so much more about what it takes to be a single seater racing driver. And I'm not trying to diss F1 Academy in any way and say she hasn't learnt that here. I think she has, but I think she needs that little bit more exposure that she hasn't quite gotten here, especially with the race weekends being so sporadic. As we've said, like, there is now over a month until the next F1 Academy race. Then before this race, I think it was like almost 2 months. Like, we've had such big gaps within the calendar that it makes it hard for these drivers to remain consistent. And like, obviously they get to be in the simulator and they have like other ways of learning how to drive these cars, but they need like track time. And I think being in another championship might be that little bit more beneficial for her, even if, say, it's for like 6 months of the year where she's in a championship but it's racing more frequently. Then she could kind of build up on her skills and her experience in a different way that she has done here. So that's my kind of like hope for her. I don't know what she has planned, if anything. I guess we won't know for a little while because we're not kind of quite at the point to hearing about what drivers have planned just yet. I feel like when we reach Las Vegas and kind of post Las Vegas, that's when we'll start to know a little bit more about what these drivers are going to be up to. But moving on back to Doriane and Maya, there's something that we need to talk about, and that was in race 2, Maya's overtake on Doriane. Now, for context, Maya got pole. She started on pole for race 2. Doriane got a better start and took her at the start. And then it kind of looked like Doriane had it in the bag. That was it. game over for Maya. She was just going to have to come second. Everything happened. You've got safety cars, you have got rain, you've got crashes, you've got DNFs, and Doriane's team tell her to box. It's under safety car, it's raining, box, come in and change your tyres. She gets told the message into the corner before pit entry. So she can't do it now. She's missed it. It's too late. So she tells the team that it's too late and that they should have told her sooner, which arguably they should have done. However, I think if she'd gone and pitted, she would not have been in the points, because the same thing happened with Chloe Chambers. She pitted out of the points. So actually the fact that her team made a mistake ended up being in her favour. However, I don't think she was expecting Maya to make that overtake, because Maya stayed out. Maya knew that's what she wanted to do. She said it on the radio that she was staying out. And that when that safety car came in and there was only one lap left, she was able to make that overtake, which I thought was so impressive, because you've had rain, you've got a safety car restart, everyone's changing their tyres, you've got 1 lap left. It was crazy. And honestly, one of my favourite moves of the whole season. Yaz, what did you think of that move? Are you in agreement with me that was one of the best? Or do you think that you kind of feel for Doriane a little bit, that this could have been her moment to kind of almost not completely snatch the championship away, because as I said, there's still 37 points remaining, but open that gap from 9 points to a lot more?
For me, this was the best moment of the season. Because it was just so unexpected and so risky. Again, she hasn't changed her tires. That part of the track was really wet. And she was just on on the throttle, and away she went. It was so impressive. But a part of me does feel so bad for Doriane. I mean, she's also had an incredible drive this weekend and throughout this season, and just on that last lap, she must have been beating herself up inside. I couldn't just defend that. Oh, it's I could go on and on about it, but I think both of them are just incredible drivers, and just this weekend Maya just seemed to be a bit more of a risk taker, and that proved to work. But again, like you said, there's still time for that to change. I mean, it's between them two and who's going to win the championship. Again, I've said Maya's going to win it. You said Doriane's going to win it. And either way, if it's Doriane or it's Maya, both of them deserve it. And I just can't wait to see where this is going to go, because I think, in these next couple of races, well, this next weekend, gloves are off, elbows out. I just really, really hope that we don't see them both crashing into each other, because this weekend we got moments where they were so close, they were so close together. I was like, oh, girls, please, please don't ruin each other's race. But I think if it's going to happen, it's going to happen next race. What do you think? Or am I just being delusional?
Ooh, that's a little hot take here of, is Doriane and Maya going to... That's not grammatically correct. Let me do that again. Will Doriane and Maya crash into each other in Las Vegas? That's the big $1 million question here. If they do, and neither of them score points in both races, then that will mean that Doriane will win the title. So they need to be careful, especially Maya, because she wants to take that battle right down to the final race. So she cannot really make any mistakes if she wants to win. Doriane has a little bit more leeway, but the only way that it will fully work in her favour is if both of them DNF. So I think that's a really interesting take there. Ooh, okay. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think they both have that little bit more experience and maturity for it not to happen. And we spoke a little bit about this on our F1 episode that was released this week, about kind of Lando and Oscar, the gloves being off. Are we going to see more crashes with them? And I feel like the difference between them and Doriane and Maya is that I feel like these girls know what they're doing, and have that slightly more control, because I feel like if they've been battling it out all season, so I feel like if maybe something would have happened already by now, like we would have seen a glimpse of that before. But you never know, the pressure's on. It's the final weekend. Who knows what's going to happen? But I think that's a really interesting hot take.
By the way,
That's, I'm
guys,
very excited.
I don't want them to crash into each other. Just in case you're thinking I'm putting some bad like voodoo into the world, I do not want them to crash into each other. I want it to be like right down to the last lap. But I don't know. I think I say this because like if I was in their position and I had all this pressure on me, and we're going right down to like the last like what, it's like 14 laps, like average a race, like I don't know, I feel like I would just end up making a mistake or just like, you know, that pressure. But again, I'm not a driver. Yeah, and you wouldn't want me to be an F1 Academy driver either. Yeah.
I think it'd be really funny if you, Brianna, and I were to get into an F4 car, like an F1 Academy car, and the three of us have to race each other. That would be so interesting. It'd make a really cool episode of the podcast. I think it would end up in absolute disaster.
Who do you think would win out of the three of us?
You know what? I'm going to say Brianna because she has the most experience. Because she has driven
That's
cars
true.
before, like on racetracks. So I would say, I think I would come last, without a doubt, because I would go 30 miles per hour. I'd be too scared. I could do a hot lap with someone. If someone else was driving and would go really fast, I'd literally love that. If I had to drive, I'd be terrified because I'd be like, I'd come to a corner and I'd then literally go so slowly because I'm like, I don't want to crash. But then on the straights, I feel like I'd pick up the speed. But you know, like Scale Electrics, I've gone on such a tangent, I'm so sorry. But the Scale Electrics, and you know, like you would like press the button really hard and then your car would literally fly off at the corner. That's what I feel like I would end up doing in real life. And then I'd roll over and it'd just be an absolute nightmare.
So basically, Brianna will be on her merry way, going around the track multiple times, and it'll be us, like literally, like going to like a full hot like stop at corners because we're too afraid, and like it would just take us that extra like what hour to get round, and Brianna's like done all her
Yeah.
laps. She's like, yeah, we're fine.
She'd have lapped us like so many times by that point and we'd be going so slowly.
Oh
I
my
think we should
goodness.
do it. I feel like we need to get Brianna over to the UK. I think all three of us need to go and do a track day at Silverstone, and then we can come back to the pod and be like, this is the results, guys. Will our predictions be true?
I would love that. I'll book a cheap flight over to England, and we will do that. Brianna, you know, she's gonna have to fork out a bit more money to come over. I can do it. I can come around.
Anyway, kind of wrapping this up now. One thing that I've seen on social media the last few days since this past weekend is people talking about F1 Academy in relation to 2021 F1 season. And I'll read out the quote that I saw on Twitter. Now, obviously, also, please everyone take this with a pinch of salt. I saw this on social media. None of this really like has much truth backing it. I just found it an interesting talking point that I wanted to bring to Yasmin and to you guys. So the quote says, it's from someone whose is at Toilet Dinosaur. What a name. F1 Academy. I know, I tried to do that like so calm and like level-headed, but inside I was like, I can't believe I'm reading this out loud. So at Toilet Dinosaur says F1 Academy is facing its own version of 2021 and barely anyone is talking about it. So I started like reading some like more tweets on this thread. And the same person said that some guys are getting mad about this post, but it's very obvious that you're not the target audience of this. Barely anyone means F1 Academy viewers. Are you dense? Now, when I don't know when they say barely anyone, like, do they just mean F1 Academy viewers or do they mean like motorsport fans in general? Because I find that interesting take. And then they continue to say, rooting for Doriane, but this is solely a dig at the FIA. Watch the season finale at Las Vegas on the 23rd of November. So this is solely a dig at the FIA. This now seems really weird because you brought up about fans not talking about it, and then it's facing its own version of 20. There's so much to kind of unpack here. Like, what does this tweet mean? So I carried on reading. And someone said she was never going to be penalised for crossing that line. It's a dotted one you can't cross. Now, this is in reference to Maya. Now, I can't remember which episode, which race it was, 1 or 2, but there was a line that Doriane crossed. I think it was towards her entry. And on the broadcast, I remember Ben Edwards saying, like, oh, like, is she allowed to do that? Is that going to go to the stewards? Because isn't she, like, not meant to cross that line? Now, I'm guessing the FIA looked into it and it was fine. Now, this person's claiming that it wasn't a dotted line and that the dotted line is the one that you can't cross. Now, I don't fully know all of the rules around this. And I also am trying to remember this from memory because I then went back to have a look deeper into this and I couldn't find it, unfortunately. So I don't think it was in the highlights because I watched the races live. But people were then saying, like, then that same person from the original tweet said that they were talking about the impeding during qualifying. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to qualifying and have a look to see if I could see Maya impeding anyone during qualifying. But again, couldn't really find anything. So I was like, okay, this tweet is getting more and more interesting because what are these people saying? Like, what is going on? How is there drama that I have missed when I was, like, tuning in this weekend? And people were then just kind of talking about how they think that the FIA has, like, a bias against French people and that people are rooting for Doriane, but they also think, so they said, someone put, can I put this on the list of F1 or F1 Academy in this case, hating the French? And someone else said, I'm so mad, sometimes I feel like the FIA hates Mercedes. Now, maybe this is just people saying, like, oh, like, you've done my driver dirty, you must hate all Mercedes people, you must hate all French people. I don't feel like that is necessarily true. I just found that this is interesting to kind of spark some noise on Twitter now that we're reaching the end and people have kind of decided who they want to win the championship and they think that everyone is favouring Maya over Doriane. I wanted to ask Yas if you had kind of noticed this throughout the season, if there have been any moments that you've kind of noticed, or if this has completely gone under your radar like it has mine, and is this just kind of noise and chatter from people on Twitter?
This has definitely gone under my radar. Like, again, before we started recording, we kind of go over what we're going to discuss. And when you brought this up, I was like, I have not heard this at all. At all. Which really surprises me because I try to, like, you know, stay up to date with everything that's going on online. And I like to hear what other fans' opinions are of both F1 and F1 Academy. But yeah, I did not see this coming. And again, coming to the end of the season, we kind of get more outrage, probably isn't the right word, but you know, we get more people talking about the sport, which is in F1 Academy is great because again, but when it came to W Series and when the start of F1 Academy, we didn't get much chatter. This is a bit of negative chatter, let's say. I kind of feel bad for Maya because I don't want people to think that she does win the championship. I don't want them to be like, oh well, of course she was going to win it because the FIA favoured her. And you know, I don't want like this. I would hate for there to be a bias within the FIA. Of course, we don't know that. We don't, you know, we're not the stewards. We're not a part of the FIA. We don't know what's happening behind closed doors. But I haven't noticed throughout this season any favouring any drivers. Maybe it's gone under my radar. Maybe because the races are so spread out. I can't remember if I did think that there was a bit of bias here and there. But I don't think there would be. And I really, really hope that there isn't. Daniela, are you kind of with me on this one? Because again, this came out of nowhere for me. I did not see this one coming.
Yeah, I felt the same. Like, I didn't see it coming and I haven't picked up on anything. And I feel like if we had, we would have brought it to the podcast already. We would have, like, discussed this. That's what we do with F1. We would have done the same here. And there's not been anything that I've ever, like, second guessed or questions the FIA's decision in terms of, like, who they're favouring more of and who they have a bias for. Now, like, in recent FIA history, that's happened in other championships, but not this one. And I do think it's a really, really bold statement to claim that this is the F1 Academy version of the 2021 F1 season. I think that's very, very bold. And I don't know, that makes me feel a little bit uneasy because that 2021 season caused so much drama. And I don't feel like F1 Academy is in my opinion any way similar to that season. Like, yes, we've got a battle for first in terms of the championship standings, but are you going to say that about every single championship, that whenever there is a two-way battle for that championship win, that it's just going to be like the 2021 F1 season? Because I can guarantee that over the last 75 seasons of Formula One, there have been times that people have been fighting for the championship, and it's dissimilar to the 2021 season. So in my mind, this doesn't really have much legs to stand on. I just thought it was interesting to see. Now, this could just be a keyboard warrior. This could just be someone who, like, just got frustrated over the weekend. I don't really know how much truth is within this. I personally haven't, as I've said, noticed anything. Yeah, I just thought it'd be something to kind of like end the podcast on. A little slight different tone from us, I think. This is a different thing to kind of bring to the podcast. But yeah, I'd love to know if anyone else like agrees with these people on Twitter and if they have kind of picked up on this bias. And if you have examples aside from this past weekend of this bias, and I don't know if you would agree, I'd be quite intrigued to hear this and see if there is much truth to it. But right now, I don't feel like there's enough evidence to say that there is any truth. The only thing I can think of is that in terms of like referencing the FIA kind of hating on French drivers, is the amount of penalties that Esteban Ocon used to get. That's literally the only thing I could think of, and it was even related to F1 Academy. And the same with the whole like Mercedes thing. I'm like, that's just because of like Lewis not getting the title in 2021. I don't really feel like they're against Mercedes or French people. I think it's just a coincidence. And I think, as we said, Maya's had a really strong weekend, and I really would hate to see if Maya was then to get some online abuse from this if she does go on to win the championship, like you've already kind of said, Yasmin. Do you have anything else that you want to touch on?
Not particularly, no. But again, if anyone has noticed this bias, like, please put in the comments and let us know, because we're always intrigued to hear what you, the viewers, think, even about what we discuss on the podcast. Same that goes with our F1 podcast as well. We're always open for a discussion, and I love hearing what other people think, especially about F1 Academy, because we love to hear other people watching this race series and, you know, getting more attraction to these women that put their heart and soul into their career. But this was a strange one for me. And there's one thing about motorsport fans, is that we're passionate, and when we believe something, everyone's going to know about it. We definitely experienced that this weekend with our last podcast, which was about the Singapore recap we had with F1. We had a lot of comments about the Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris situation, but we love a good discussion. So yeah, please comment below and let us know if you agree with the FIA favouring the French and not liking Mercedes.
And on that note, thank you very much for listening to this episode of our F1 Academy series. We've only got one weekend left to go. We will also at some point do our kind of like takes on the F1 The Academy documentary series on Netflix, so stay tuned for that. And if you liked this podcast, then please give us a thumbs up, rate us on different podcast platforms that you listen to us on. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and all that fun stuff. And we will see you in the next one. Bye!
Hello, fly chick coming through. Nice to meet ya, glad you came too.